The new stamp set Simple Hearts by Tammy Mayberry will have you making quick and easy cards for all kinds of occasions. And although you may want to make a Valentine's Day card when you pull this set out of the package, today on Stamp TV I'm going to show you how to make a sweet and whimsical thank you card from the bottom of my heart. Let me show you the tools and products you're going to need to do this card project. First, you're going to need some cardstock and pattern paper. And I'm using the Gina Designs Pure Luxury White cardstock. This is our heavy base weight cardstock for my card base. A piece of the layering weight cardstock. And then here I have some of the Gina Designs Pure Luxury Red Hot cardstock. I also have a piece of the pattern paper from the new Smitten collection. And this one matches our cherry red, but it also matches our red hot really well too. Then you're going to need some ink, and I'm using the Gina Designs Premium Dye ink in Red Hot. You're also going to need some ribbon, and I have the Red Hot gingham ribbon here, and I'm going to use both the 5/8 of an inch and 3/8 of an inch for this project. And as you know, all of our ribbon wraps come in the 5/8 of an inch and 3/8 of an inch in one package. That's part of our Color Companions line. You get both widths, which is really nice because it's fun to mix and match the different widths together in your projects. Then you're going to need some stamps, and I'm using one of the circle stamps from the new Simple Hearts stamp set, and I'm using the Thank You from the Bottom of My Heart greeting. I love this big bold greeting, and you'll see how it almost becomes part of the focal image of this piece. Then you're going to need some tape and some scissors for the ribbon, and then I have 2 dies here. Now you can either use dies or punches, or if you have an electronic cutter, you can use cut files that are circles and scalloped circles. I'm using 2 dies by Spellbinders. This is a circle die, and then I have a lacy circle die. And I'm going to cut those out using my Cuttlebug. And I also have some of the 1/4 inch pop dots. So to begin, I'm going to assemble these 2 pieces of paper and cardstock together. I've cut a square of this pattern paper the same width as this piece of cardstock, but then I've left some white at the bottom so that I can stamp the greeting. So I'm going to adhere these 2 pieces together first. This is kind of a fun way to use pattern paper, but you don't have to use the entire card front in a pattern, just a little piece of it. Okay, so there is my pattern paper. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to stamp the greeting Thank You from the Bottom of My Heart using some of the Gina Designs Red Hot ink. I'm going to ink that up real well. And then because I'm using clear stamps, it's very easy to see to position your greeting. So I'm going to put that right down here toward the bottom. And since that's a big greeting, I want to make sure that I press it all down. And there we go. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. And you can see how nice and crisp that is. If you haven't tried our ink, you're really going to enjoy it. Next, I'm going to stamp one more image. I've got another little piece of the white layering weight, and I'm going to stamp this image again in the Red Hot ink. So I'm going to ink that up. Go. And I'm going to stamp that toward the bottom because I can use the rest of this piece of white cardstock for other little greetings and other little embellishments and focal images. So there we go. There is that heart. Now I'm going to adhere this piece onto this piece of Red Hot, and that will give me a nice little 1/8 of an inch border around the entire perimeter there. And again, I'm going to use my mono-adhesive tape for that. And once I get that lined up, there we go. Now I want to finish this edge here, and that's where my ribbon comes in. So I'm going to start with the 5/8 of an inch ribbon, and I'm just going to cut a little bit extra on either side so I can tape it behind this panel. I'm going to do that first. I'm going to make sure that I have an even amount of space above my greeting and below my greeting. So right about there looks good. And I want to make sure I have a little bit of a tail on each end here so that that can really be tucked way underneath my card base. So there we go. Now I'm going to use a little piece of the 3/8 of an inch ribbon, and I'm going to cut that and slip that underneath, and then I'm going to make just a simple knot like that. And then I'm just going to cut away the excess. Now, I may have used a little bit too much here. You can kind of judge based on how big you want your tails to be that you may not want to use quite as much ribbon. I always err on the side of, using enough ribbon instead of too little and making it difficult for me to tie. But that can be a little bit wasteful, so you can use a little bit less. I think that looks good. There we go. Okay. So now my next step is going to be to adhere this onto my white card base. And I love that big, bold white edge around the whole outside. Now when you're adhering a panel onto your card base and you're using ribbon, try to get a little bit of tape onto the ribbon too, and that'll really help make sure that that doesn't come apart once that card is sealed down. It'll really help to keep the ribbon in place. Okay, and that makes a nice big bold frame. I'm going to cut this little tail off just a little bit in here, just because I think that's sticking out just a little bit too much. There we go. And I'll cut the other one to match. Sometimes if you cut it just the right angle, it can get almost a little bit too pointy. There we go. And that makes it look a little bit more in proportion. All right, so my next step is to take my Cuttlebug, and I'm going to cut out that little round heart, starting with my A and B plate and that little panel of cardstock. I'm going to first cut out the plain circle here, and you can see that's going to leave just a little white border around there. And I'm going to top it off with my C plate, hold everything into place, and push it through the machine. So there's my nice little, you can see it's got a nice little white border around the outside. And now I'm going to cut that lacy circle using that little scrap of red that I have off to the side. And again, A and B and C on top. Now, if you ever have trouble with cardstock that's a little bit thicker, the best thing to do is to flip it over. Well, you see that dropped right out, so this isn't a problem. But just flip it over, and then you can run it through the machine one more time. I'll do that anyway, just in case any of those little pieces are stuck. And then it'll be totally cut through. Very easy to pop out with all the little scallop things are out of there too. If they do get stuck, you can always take a craft pick or a paper piercer and you can just pop them right out. So now I'm going to tape this onto the lacy scalloped circle. And make sure that's centered. There we go. And now the whole panel is going to go just right here by my bow, or my little knot. And I'm going to stick that on with a couple of pop dots because I want a little more dimension in this card. And I think 3 pop dots will be plenty to hold this on well. And even though this card has a little bit of bulk because of the pop dots and the ribbon, it's still pretty flat. It'll be pretty easy to mail. Sometimes I like to just place a thin piece of cardstock right over the front of the card before I put it into the envelope. And that just protects the embellishments and things. And there is my finished card project. So quick and so easy. So cute. Hearts are perfect for Valentine's Day, weddings, and engagements, but they also can help you create perfect card projects for any occasion year-round.